What's up, what's up? This is Jake Rohn. We're here at the world-famous Wildcard Gym, home of the legendary trainer Freddie Roach. Now, today is one of the biggest days in boxing history, media-wise. This gym has trained some of the biggest names in boxing, but none bigger than Manny Pacquiao. So as we prepare for the May 2nd fight, let's go in, check it out, and see who we can talk to.
As far as the atmosphere, is there any UFC fight that you think could even compare to like the electric show and hype surrounding this?
Well, you've got to realize that this is a situation where it's actually bringing the world together. This fight is making everybody and their mother is going to watch this fight that doesn't watch boxing. It's also going to create a surge in boxing, which thank God is so good for the sport. So, in answer to your question, we are getting a tremendous amount of marketing and phenom activity out of Conor McGregor, out of Dublin, Ireland. Ricky Hatton used to come to this country, and 30% of the tickets, give or take, were Irish fans that came over from Ireland. Yeah. Conor McGregor's coming to this country, and 10 to 20%, and I could be off, are coming to the country from Ireland to watch him fight. How often do you see individuals like that? Ronda Rousey in the female division. She's amazing, but she's becoming amazing in so many different areas. Her foray into motion pictures and the marketing and the sponsorship she's getting. And she's becoming more than just an octagon fighter. She's becoming a completely huge brand. So in answer to your question, in the UFC, there are many fighters that bring the electricity. In the old days, Chuck Liddell. When I say old days, a few years ago, every time Chuck Liddell walked in an octagon or walked into the arena, it was electric. Randy Couture, winning the championship at 44 years old, I think it was, the oldest ever. It was electric. There's so many electric moments. Speaking for myself and probably for people like my brother Michael also, we see so many great moments, and we probably forget more than we can remember. So yes, there's been a lot of electricity, but this is the biggest, most electric fighting event in the history of fighting sports. Mixed martial arts and boxing are apples and oranges. They are fighting sports, but they are two different fighting sports. You will never hear me compare the two. I don't believe in it. I believe in respecting each for what they are and how great they are. And I'm a huge boxing fan. Huge.
Now I have to contradict that though and ask you to compare the two with Layla Ali and Ronda Rousey. There's been talk, TMZ kind of started like
It's real simple. You ready?
Please.
Marcus of Queensberry, 2 weapons, boxing ring. Ronda's proven to be becoming a very good boxer, but Layla Ali's a boxer. There's a size differential there too, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. So Layla Ali wins in the boxing ring. Okay. Walking into the octagon, Layla Ali will be done in less than a minute.
Less than a minute. Wow.
You're talking over 40 weapons. If Layla Ali hands her a digit, a widget, an arm, a leg, or a foot, you don't give that to Ronda Rousey. You don't do that. She will take it, beat you back with it.
There you have it. All right. Hi, Bob. So at the press conference, Floyd Mayweather Sr. didn't speak. What was the reason for that?
I can't predict what Floyd Mayweather Sr. is going to do or not do, or why he didn't speak. I personally am a very good friend of Floyd Mayweather Sr. I've known him for many, many years, particularly those years that Floyd fought for us, and I have great respect for Sr. I think he's a terrific trainer, and he's a nice guy. And why he didn't speak, I don't know, but when he's not at a press conference, he speaks plenty. You have to understand, when you get old like me, you tend to look at the fighters that fought when you were younger as being greater than the fighters today. So my feeling is that the winner of this fight and the loser will go into the annals as great fighters. But for me, in my era, the greatest fighters were Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard, and probably also Marvin Hagler. Floyd Mayweather is an absolute genius as a defensive fighter, and his moves are absolutely tremendous. But there was a difference. I was comparing him with the great Ali which is a compliment, before the 3.5 years. When Ali came back, he didn't have legs, and he stood there with all these tremendous hard hitters and traded punches. Shavers hit him in Madison Square Garden with a punch that should have knocked the building down, and Ali stood through it and came on. So for me, that was the greatest fighter that ever lived, Muhammad Ali. You can't compare events from different eras. So for me, the biggest event that captured the country and the world was Ali and Frazier, because it had political implications. Ali was against the Vietnam War. They had prevented him from fighting for 3.5 years. Frazier had won the title in the interim, but Ali hadn't lost it. They had stripped it from him. So there was a lot of intrigue going into that fight. And the whole country stopped and they took side, because a lot of Americans were now shifting over and saying, what are we doing in Vietnam? It makes no sense. When Ali first was against it, they said he was a traitor and all that sort of stuff. So that was huge. That had cultural implications and everything. Is this bigger than that fight? You can't measure it because we didn't have satellites then. We didn't have social media. It was a whole different world. We had 3 or 4 networks. We didn't have independent stations. You can't compare fights from different eras. But from my mind, nothing would ever be bigger than that first Ali Frazier fight. We all believe in God. Not all. A lot of people believe in God. And Manny Pacquiao is a very spiritual person. And he believes that he has a communication with God. Now, that's not a belief that I'm going to criticize or anybody should. He believes that. Now, if in his mind he believes God will deliver Mayweather's hand, now if he loses to Mayweather, he will say that that's God's will. He will say that that's God's will. But the fact that he believes that now that it is God's will that he will defeat Mayweather is pretty good for his confidence going into the fight. Styles make fights. Marquez is very difficult for Manny Pacquiao because of his style, because it's a various thing. So you can't judge it.
You think they have a totally different style?
Yeah. You know, in boxing they always say A beats B, right? And C and B beats C. You know, styles are different. You say, well, Manny Pacquiao annihilated Ricky Hatton, and Floyd struggled with Ricky until he finally knocked him out. Does that make Manny better than Ricky Hatton? Or Manny knocked out Miguel Cotto, and Floyd had a difficult time with Cotto. Doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean anything. They're different fights. Fighters are different with different opponents. How they'll match up will be determined on May 2nd in Las Vegas.
Thanks. Freddie, talk about, of all Manny's previous opponents, which one do you think best prepared him for this fight?
I don't know if we have anyone really as close to him as like speed-wise and counter-punch-wise. Probably Marquez, because he was probably the best counter-puncher we had, but we had fought him so many times and he learned a little bit more than we did in the last one. So, I mean, he finally won one, and now there'll be no rematch there because he's very happy with that way he does. So, but I think Marquez is like the best counterpuncher of 5, and Mayweather is right there with him. He's a very good counterpuncher, and we did learn that, you know, if you stay in the pocket too long, you're bound to get hit, so it's something we're not going to do. And when you get knocked out by Marquez, he just stayed a little bit too long. And but those things happen because, you know, Manny's one of those guys. He wants to win the fight. He's offensive, and that comes from me, I'm sure. But I think offense wins fights and defense doesn't.
Right, and then, when people talk about this fight and how they wanted it to happen 5 years ago, how do you think this is a different fight 5 years later for Manny than it would have been had it happened?
Studying Mayweather 5 years ago and studying him now, he's a different fighter. He doesn't have he's not as mobile as he once was. He doesn't move quite as well. I mean, 5 years ago, we might have had a little bit more trouble with him because he was such a mover, and he was a mover and a counter puncher on top of that. It's very dangerous. But now he's a bit more flat-footed. He says he wants to be flat-footed to please the crowd and to exchange more. I don't think that's true. I think he has to do that. But if he does exchange with Manny Pacquiao, he will get beat.
All right, and then last thing. Your exact words were, we're going to kick his ass. So tell me, why are you going to kick his ass?
Well, because I think I am the better fighter. I think my fighter's faster than he is. And the thing is, we'll be in now quick, scoring a lot of points. Manny throws combinations. Floyd gets one punch up at a time. He doesn't throw flurries. I don't think he's that great. I mean, I know that when people say he's the greatest fighter of all time, like Sugar Robinson, he couldn't carry his bag. I mean, give me a break. That's the truth, in my opinion.
All right, very good. Thank you. Tell me how this fight is different now than it would have been 5 years ago, about how you've matured as a fighter.
The difference of this fight now than 5 years ago or 6 years ago is, I believe that more people informed for this fight now than before 5 years ago, and I think even the people who are not a boxing fan, they want to watch this fight.
And as evasive as Floyd is, how do you plan to force him to confront you?
Oh, we have a lot of strategy and plan for his style, and we did that in training. So we're very happy that we fulfill our strategy and what we want to do in the fight.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.